It's always an exciting time to have you join us on your News and Current Affairs program, International Forum, on independent television. My name is Philip Omo-Gyupon. We're going to be having another round of what is happening in the international scene as we take a very close look at the decisions by the U.S. President Joe Biden and the war in Ukraine. And Russia has been up against Ukraine, and the war has been severe and is not close to abating. And looking at the NATO summit taking place in Lithuania, and of course the U.S. President Joe Biden already in the UK, and in a moment will also be in Lithuania, where he will be defending difficult decisions concerning the use or supply of cluster munition to Ukraine. And we'll look at the dangers of having cluster bombs, a situation where civilian lives may also be lost in the process, and all the conditions that may be tied to it. Some will say, well, this could be the hypocrisy of the U.S. government in all of this talk against Russia using, this kind of weapons even last year, of course, even as they go through the war, against Ukraine. But again, the U.S. president now giving strong reasons why it becomes imperative for Ukraine to deploy this use of cluster bombs, and already been supplied, which promises to be supplied by the U.S. It's also raising a lot, and the implications of this, huge members of the NATO, are frowning against this decision of the U.S. President Joe Biden to supply cluster bombs to Ukraine in the fight, in the war, that they are having with Russia. What could be the implication of this? This forms the crux of today's discussion, as I have distinguished analysts to look at it with me, and where you have to also, enjoy a bit of it and see how things are in terms of the war in Ukraine and the NATO members, what they are doing in that respect. Starting from my extreme left, as I always do, I have a seasoned constitutional lawyer, Notary Republic of Nigeria, former SSA to the governor of Edo State, only on legal matters, Adams Aliyu. Thanks for joining me, Adams.
Thank you, moderator. Good day, viewers. Thank you very much.
And next to him is a lecturer at University of Benin, particularly from the College of Medical Sciences, Honorable Frank Amego. Thanks for joining me, Honorable Frank.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, I have another seasoned lawyer, a custodian of the law, and he is Emmanuel Obakwalo. Thanks for being here.
Pretty good afternoon to Nigerians. Good afternoon, Mr. Philip.
Thank you. Let's start with a constitutional lawyer. Well, we don't know how constitutional, this whole aspect of the U.S. biting hard to make sure that he supplies the cluster bombs to Ukraine. This is exactly what it frowned against, the Russia using it. But now he is already facing tough decisions, and he's defending the decisions, to supply Ukraine with cluster weapons, and looking at the challenge that it comes with. What do you make of this?
When you look at the issue at stake, both Russia and Ukraine, they were part of the defunct Soviet Union. After the 1917 Great October Socialist Revolution, led by Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, simply referred to as Lenin, 15 semi-demi quasi republics decided to confederate to form the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, meaning they were republics, but they agreed to form together. Well, they did. The amalgamation lasted for over 70 years. It broke down around 91, 92. So Ukraine, one of the leading towns, I think the fourth, the biggest country at that time was Russia, headquarters in Moscow. You have Leningrad, many other towns, Volgograd, Stalingrad, etc. Ukraine had capital in Kharkov, and so they were running. And obviously there were discrepancies when they fought the Second World War under Stanley. it was the United Front. Now the US, so I see them, see tomorrow, as brothers, all the former quasi-republics in Soviet Union, because the Constitution permitted that they could separate at any time. That's what it is, with what they have done. For the US now to determine to send nuclear bombs to Ukraine, it's like being a meddlesome interloper. In delving into the internal affairs. All Soviets are the same. You don't say you are a Russian, you are a Kiev, you are a Kharkova. We call them Soviets. And when you talk of the big powers in international policies, you talk of United States, America, you talk of USSR, not all the small republics. I am even hopeful that they will settle among themselves, Russia and Ukraine.
Okay.
And they don't need the meddlesome interloper and interference of a third party to settle them. For America to now bring deadly weapons to one of the parties is, well, just as there was Second World War, you now had the treaty and the settlements. If you want to have a World War, there were Congress in Vienna, etc. I'm sure they will settle. And U.S. ought not to have given deadly weapon for them to kill themselves. Ukrainians, Russians, they are brothers. They are both part of the defunct Soviet Union.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, you made mention of being brothers.
Yes, yeah.
Well, I think we should add brothers at war. And,
Okay.
gradually, the aspect of being brotherly, you know, could be missing when there is war. And in war, a lot is suspended, emotions, sentiments, all is just to marshal out who takes the lead. Now, let's get your purview, your opinion in this, as per, you know, the U.S. president, you know, deciding to go about the supply of these cluster bombs, which he was against, even the White House.
Yes, thank you. As you introduced, our daddy is a constitutional lawyer. He has looked at the Constitution. Well, I want to look at the people that wrote the Constitution.
All right.
Yeah.
Feel free to do that.
Yeah, that's a document. I want to look at the personalities involved. He also mentioned that Ukraine, Russia, brothers. Of course, we know Cain and Abel were brothers.
But one killed the other.
Yes. So.
And the other revenged, had cried vengeance.
Exactly. So, what I say that Joe Biden did was the right thing. He said it himself that it was a difficult decision. When you see a rat running into a burning fire, what is pursuing that rat is more devastating than the fire. So the cry of Ukrainians skyrocketed and got to US. And as a big brother, they made every attempt to rescue them. And all of these times, today makes it 503 days since this brother war started. 503 days. So if it's a war or conflict of a week or two, we could say that a time will come that they will resolve these issues. But the posture of Putin does not show any sign of any peaceful resolution. And for us to condemn the action of Joe Biden now is to ignore the lives and properties of Ukraine. Let's not forget that last year alone, Russia threw these bombs into Ukraine. These cluster bombs were thrown to Ukraine. And the cluster bombs Russia threw at Ukraine was even deadlier than the one we are complaining about that U.S. is bringing. There's a way you rate the detonation of bombs. That of Russia is 30 to 40%, that it will not detonate on time. But that the U.S. brought now is less than 2.5%. We commonly refer to it as the DUD rate, D-U-D. So there's no cause for alarm right now. And when Joe Biden now made up his mind, it took counsel from the Defense Department. It wasn't a unilateral decision, unlike what Putin is doing. People are tired of it in Russia. So he looked at it and saw the disadvantages of sending these bombs to them, these cluster bombs.
Yeah.
And they are not cheap. The cost of that is about 800 million US dollars, which is equivalent to 626 million pounds.
Wow.
So it wasn't a thing that you could just play with. So a good conscience will do what Joe Biden has just done. If they had thrown such bombs towards the direction of Ukraine, and Ukraine now, if you saw the way the man, Zelensky accepted it, that this supply was timely. So let's fight them the way they are fighting us. You don't fight a beast with your bare hands. And also the beast now has his own weapons. So you have to look for other weapons to fight the beast. Putin is not relenting. He wants to bring Ukraine to a standstill. And the best way to it is to make what Joe Biden did now to come to reality. So far,
okay.
so good.
Okay.
I applaud the deployment.
Well, they say for every javelin thrown to stop the assault of the Russian tanks against Ukraine or Kiev, America is there, the United States is there. And also looking out for every, for the airstrike system, that would stop the airstrikes from Russia against hitting critical structures of Ukraine. The U.S. is there. Even when it has to do with armored vehicles that will be used or deployed by Ukraine for future deployment against Russia, the U.S. is there. Questions have been asked. What is the sole interest of the U.S. in this?
Thank you very much. We all know the course of this war. It started in this manner, when Ukraine decided to join NATO. And NATO is seen to be the pet project of the United States of America.
Oh.
And Russia, being a bona fide known enemy of the United States of America, opposed to Ukraine joining NATO. But again, the question is Ukraine a sovereign state?
That's a big question.
That's the question. And we all know that Ukraine is a sovereign state. So she can decide on which side to go. However, Russia on the other side cries to say, look, when you become member of NATO, before you know, America makes Ukraine a territory
to spy
of a military extension. So they can use it to spy us. That was their defense.
Okay.
But being that as it may, if you look at the defense of the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, though he didn't do that defense himself just now, it was his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, that came up to say, look, this decision was not primarily taken by the president. It was our advice to him. And just like my co-panelists said here, today is the 503 day of the war. So you cannot...
And it seems not abating.
Yes, and this war is not fought in Russia. This war is fought in Ukraine.
That's the challenge.
And you are saying that there shouldn't be, in the words of my daddy here, that the United States is meddlesome interlopers. I disagree absolutely with that. I take an exception. Because if you allow Russia, they will run through Ukraine.
Like a piece of cake.
Yes, and also Ukraine is saying just now that we are running out of ammunition. So, in order to prevent the aggression of Russia, the United States came up with cluster munitions to give to them, so that to see if the cluster munitions could be of assistance to the Ukrainians, so that you don't come to a man's house, you bind the man, and you begin to maltreat, torture the man, That is what Russia is doing just now. So they are looking at a situation where there could be a retrogression by Russia so that they can leave. Already you've taken Crimea. For a very long time, you've been the one administering Crimea. You give rules and regulations, you make laws for Crimea.
That's not enough.
Yes, you are not pushing. In fact, they've taken almost everywhere, save for Kiev, the capital. Because once Kiev is taken, that is all over. The war is over.
It's won by Russia.
Yeah, so because of that, there is need for an assistance. You know, sometime last year, Ukraine was promised Leopard tanks by Germany, France, and others. And before we knew it, it was not coming forth until sometime the thing came up. And now, Russia have destroyed virtually everything that Ukraine has. At a point, even their nuclear plants, they attacked it. They attacked their electricity project also there. They attacked almost everything. They just want to grind the nation called Ukraine. And if Ukraine, this war is because Ukraine chose to join NATO, not that she has even joined it. And they are facing this battle. And you say America, who is the head of NATO, should just fold its hands or her hands and watch Ukraine go down the drain. Then the German question would be, what was the essence of joining even the NATO?
Okay.
Why do we join it?
Thank you. Now let's go back to you, our constitutional lawyer at North Republic of Nigeria, Adam Zaliu. Now he said something that is splashing to you as per what you gave, as per the U.S., interference in it. You used a particular word, interloper. Now,
why I took
do you see with the very, very serious issues facing Ukraine? This war is not in Russia, like he said, and we have it already on the screen. War in Ukraine, not in Russia. Now, you look at the challenges facing Ukraine, that is almost totally devastated.
Yeah,
so don't you see the reason why at this point the U.S. should take such tough decisions?
U.S. now is invading. That is why the venue of the war is in Ukraine. When you reverse to political history, international relations, First World War, Second World War, if the big powers, there used to be 5 big or superpowers, if they disagree now, assuming the U.S. big power, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, etc., they are backing Ukraine. What if China now backs Russia? Or if the United Kingdom now backs Russia? If we dovetail to a third world war.
United Kingdom backing Russia, we don't see that possibility.
Right now, if we dovetail to a third
if you say China, we could be looking at that. North Korea. Not United Kingdom.
We don't want a third. We don't want a third world war. So the big powers should not take sides, as it were. I'm still of that opinion. Like I remember where they are coming from 1917, after the October Revolution. These 15 quasi-Soviet republics, Kyrgyzia, Mail, Kharkov, Tbilisi, Georgia, Leningrad, etc. As a Sovietologist, I was editor in the Daily Times. I used to cover their great October Socialist Revolution, which was November 7th every year for many, many years. It's not now that electronics, if something is happening in England, you see it in your bedroom. In the 70s, 80s, a journalist will travel with a cameraman. You will go there, take pictures, send releases via airways, and when you come, you start to write. That's what we did. And I know that they are close, they have everything in common, language. We call them Soviets. We don't say Ukrainian, Russian, Georgian, etc. So I still think that it is an internal discrepancy.
Okay.
Which they could resolve.
We've seen it. I don't know if it's by constitutional, constitutional mandate.
They had a constitution.
No. I'm going somewhere. I don't know if it's by constitutional mandate or by conventional practice or observation, where it is saying that the United States is seen as the watchdog, the world police. And so, looking at the donations, the support the United States have made to world countries, including Nigeria, having issues of insecurity. Now, would you say that in that light, where the Russian people, where the Russian drive by the president, you know, is seen as a threat, not only to Ukraine, because if Ukraine goes on the ground in this war, you know, this could go make a lot of big signal, you know, that will also be made against America and, of course, other NATO members. Now, do you see this as do you see this as constitutional for the United Nations as the world police to take this responsibility of tackling issues in this respect?
Ultra varies. Even the African Nation Charter, Chapter 3, talks of the independence and sovereignty of every member state. Once you are a member of NATO, you are a member of the UN, you are automatic. Nigeria became a member. You actually signatory to Balewa went to stand for us. So if they take side, as I said, other big powers will take side with you.
But don't forget the other NATO members are also siding Ukraine.
Not all. It cannot be. They cannot be siding Ukraine alone. They'll be divided, and it can dovetail to a third world war.
Okay, we are basically going to be having this NATO summit, you know, taking place in Lithuania, as reports have it. What do you see as the implications of this? Because at this point, you know, President Joe Biden will be standing up, you know, defending his tough decisions.
Yeah.
What do you think this could be in terms of implications? You know, is he going to? Do you see him as getting support from other NATO members, or do you see this as a crack that could bring about victory even for Russia?
Yeah, on the 9th of November 2022, last year, in Madrid, Spain, then it was resolved that a meeting will be held 11th and 12th, which is today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
In Lithuania, and that's in Europe. And that country is bounded by, is it Libya also? There's a country called like that. There, Belarus, Poland, there, even Russia. The 4 countries that are bounded that place. So now it was agreed that the issue of this war between Russia and Ukraine be discussed. Is top on the agenda.
Of course it is.
So there is no one person among the NATO powers, or those members, that will go against the action or actions of Joe Biden. One reason: injury to one is injury to all.
But don't forget, they've not been supporting the issue of the deployment of the cluster bomb.
Yes,
they've not supported it.
Even
over 100 countries are against the use of cluster bombs.
The 100, no, they're actually 123.
Okay, I said over 100.
Yeah, 123 exactly. You take note that US did not sign, Russia did not sign, and Ukraine did not sign that agreement.
That's good.
They didn't sign. So back to the question, as they start meeting today and tomorrow now, everyone will come to a roundtable talk. If what I said is not what you understood, there are 2 different things. I'm responsible for whatever I say, but I'm not responsible for your understanding.
Or lack of understanding.
What Joe Biden did was a rescue mission. This is somebody that wants to join our group, NATO group. I'm going to allow Russia to crush them. If they say, okay, let's vote overwhelmingly, let Russia crush Ukraine, then other members of NATO will be scared. So whenever we have a challenge,
because we don't know who's going to be next. To be used as a prey.
Then any upcoming nation that also join NATO will be so scared that Ukraine that wanted to join, look at what Russia did to them.
Yes.
So everybody will not join NATO anymore. So what is before NATO now, we can quarrel inside, but when we come out, we'll speak with one voice. No matter what will happen, day 1, day 2, which is today, tomorrow, they would have disagreed. And uniformity is not unity.
Oh.
Yes, it's not. You need to agree to disagree, or disagree to agree. Even right there in the US, the Democrats are not united on this. The Republicans are not united as this matter is concerned. So personally, I'm not afraid or worried whether they agree or disagree, depends on the ratio. But at the end of the day, they're going to come up with a public proclamation that what Joe Biden did was right. That's my projection. Because even in a home, father, mother, 2 children, there will be disagreement. But they are still called by their family name. So NATO should not disintegrate because Joe Biden has found it difficult to decide that bombs should be sent to them.
Yeah.
So once these bombs they already arrived in Ukraine, the president is happy that it was timely. So there is no better way to encourage an upcoming member than what Joe Biden has done.
Okay.
I tend to look at what do you call it, advantages and disadvantages. It might have a lot of disadvantages, but what Joe Biden said, which is true, that the dude rate is very low. The fear of it will detonate over time as they throw it to Russia's side, which would not even be the case. But the battlefield is in Ukraine. They are not throwing it to Russian territory. They want to dislodge the Russian troops that are there.
But it's not even supposed to be used in Ukraine.
But Russia is using it. Russia is using it.
Okay.
Russia used it last year.
Oh yes,
and heaven did not fall.
Oh yes, of course. And the US was against that.
It was against that.
Yes.
But now,
so there seems to be some hypocrisy here.
Not really.
We're going to be going there.
Okay.
Big thanks, of course, Adams Aliyu for taking our time to be part of this, and of course, Honorable Frank Amego and Emmanuel Bakbolo. Is International Forum, War in Ukraine, looking at the tough decisions that Biden is taking and defending those tough decisions as the NATO, members will be having it, discussing issues concerning a war in Ukraine and how to, tackle the issues headlong to make sure that Ukraine is not run on the ground. Well, we're going to be taking a short break, after which we are extending frontiers of this discussion. Do stay. Yes, it's International Forum, and while we had a break, we still have our distinguished guests to analyze the issues concerning war in Ukraine and Biden defense tough decisions in that regard. And let's look at the hypocrisy, kind of, that some people are having about, the president, Joe Biden, where he was one time against it, for Russia to use it. Even Ukraine was also using it. And now he is saying that due to the military low, the capacity of the military is low in Ukraine, so there's need for efforts to be doubled in that regard, and then using the cluster weapons. Don't forget, the cluster weapons could detonate at any time, even after the war has ended. A few years later, there could be civilian life in those areas, and then you now see detonation taking place. It's never advised, and most of the NATO members are also against it, and even the US was against it when Russia was using it, and now it's trying to give capacity to the reason why Ukraine should use it. Don't you see hypocrisy?
For me, I do not see any form of hypocrisy in this matter, because from the outset of it all, Russia, the United States of America, and Ukraine were not signatory to it from the beginning. They frowned at using cluster munitions or any other nuclear weapon. But mind you, remember at the beginning of this war, just few days that the war kick-started, Putin came out and told the world that he has a weapon called Satan II, and that he was going to use it to destroy the whole world. That kind of boast. And somewhere into the war, sometime into the war, the man started using cluster munitions against Ukraine. Mind you, just like our daddy said, Ukraine was a part of the Soviet Union. Then, if Putin respects that brotherhood, what Putin would have done, to my mind, was to see how he convinced or confused or both Zelensky not to join NATO. That would have ended all of this debacle we are witnessing today or seeing today. So I think that even a member of Democrats in the US described Putin's Joe Biden's defense of these cluster munitions as a terrible mistake.
A terrible mistake.
Even
because most of them are not even with him on this.
Yes, even Jack Sullivan, while addressing the press, told them that yes, it is a terrible mistake indeed, but Ukraine needs to protect Ukrainians.
But could that not make could that not make Joe Biden unpopular? If we are to make a poll as president,
these people are not like us, the blacks, where somebody will tell you that, oh, the reason why we didn't remove subsidy was because we wanted APC to win the 2023 presidential election. It is not like that. They look at, they project, they look at the future. Just now, they are saying that if there is no assistance to Ukraine, Ukraine may be grinded by Russia. They are already seeing it. Like I did say in my introduction, all the big towns in Ukraine have been captured by Russia. Save the capital, Kiev. And attempts have been made towards Kiev. And you say everybody should fold their hands. The question I ask, what is now the essence of joining NATO if NATO cannot protect Ukraine? I do not think at this time that NATO would vote against the decision of Joe Biden. I do not think so. Because, mind you, I did say that NATO is the pet project of the United States of America. United States of America sponsors it. So, if it's just like the United Nations, it's still the United States of America that sponsors it. If they withdraw their sponsorship, it will not exist any longer. If they had gone the way of Putin, by now there would have been Third World War. So, if Third World War arises or emerges, then it is not the act of Joe Biden that caused it. It's Putin. So, let us, what these men are thinking now is to see if we use these cluster munitions for some days, and we see that there is a withdrawal of Russian troops.
Of course, it's going to lead to that.
Yes, then I think they will stop
because it will make Kiev, you know, it will make them unable to reach to Kiev. It will make them unable for their foot soldiers to overrun Ukraine.
I think that is why the mass.
But we are looking at the long-run effects. The aftermath.
The aftermath may be a disaster.
It is.
Quote now, just as it has been described as a terrible mistake, it may turn out to be like that. But first, let's protect the people of Ukraine. I think that is the major. Project now. Because leaving Ukraine to be grinded, what are you going to protect tomorrow?
All right.
So the protection of Ukraine is germane.
Adams Ali, let's look at this from this other perspective. Knowing full well that we are not really going to expect that peace talks with the president of Russia will make things go smoothly, you know, because the war has started and it has gone way away from even coming together to make a peace talk. Now, what do you see as the way out, if not cluster weapons, that the NATO should use? Because sanctions have been made, and it's like the whole world against one country, Russia. In spite of the sanctions, severe sanctions, the country seems to be also not being adamant.
When war is going on, peace talk continue in pari passu. There must be peace talk.
Of this nature?
No, there must be peace talk going. It's either the peace talk will succeed or it will fail.
Okay.
That's always it. First World War, there were peace talk here and here, Treaty Versailles, 1914. Second World War, there has to become Great Vienna, etc. Even our local war here, Nigerian Biafran War, there was peace talk at Aburi.
But don't forget the peace talk. No matter the peace talk, Russia will not withdraw its troops from where it has conquered.
The peace talk will be going on. And then, if the peace talk is not able to resolve the disagreement, then the war will continue. That's why I gave instances where peace talk have failed. But it's normal and expected that all parties, once you join NATO, UNESCO, any other international body, you are ipso facto qualified. You have rights and privileges as every other member. So this big brotherhood, big boss status of America, I know it could be the financier. As long as Ukraine had joined, it has all rights, privileges appertaining there to as a member. That's why I said Russia itself can cry to other powers, China. The story would be different. But we don't pray for a third world war. For Nigeria, developing country, we ally with one. Our brothers and sisters, sons and daughters will go and fight as they did in First and Second World War. So let us still hope that the peace talks will succeed and there will be peace. The war is still less than 2 years. In European history, war has lasted 30 years. War has lasted 10 years. Our own civil war lasted for 2.5 years. So I'm still optimistic that it can be resolved. And America ought not to supply deadly weapons to Ukrainians to let me say, fight or kill their brother Russians. They are all Soviets.
Okay.
And they are emanated from the same mother, Lenin.
You are a Nigerian, and you are saying this in Nigeria. And of course, we look at the
I'm
challenges.
a Sovietologist.
No,
I study history and politics of Soviet.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And
I'm going
I
somewhere.
went there very many times.
Okay, beautiful.
I've been to Kharkov.
Okay.
I've been to Leningrad. Anywhere you can take.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, let's look at this perspective. You know, at the time we saw the African leaders, you know, who were out to, you know, bring calm to the tense atmosphere, you know, that this whole war was bringing on Ukraine. And we were yet to see the Nigerian president anyways in all of this. Now, let's get your opinion. Where do you think Nigeria stands in this war?
Nigeria has no decisive voice.
Oh.
And we are an independent and sovereign nation in any international forum, whether African Union, UN, etc. So Nigeria will not openly, overtly come out to say they are supporting one side. And anyway, we don't even have ammunition to give them to fight. So Nigeria will be diplomatic.
No, you are very wrong for saying that.
Yeah, so they'll be diplomatic, not to overtly take side. We shouldn't expect a categorical alliance.
But you know what you just said is not true. For you to say that we don't have any ammunition.
Really,
we have ammunition to give to Ukraine. We have local guns manufactured at all costs.
Is that not the ammunition?
Atigun and the rest. We are talking of rockets, missiles, etc., which we are still far.
Ballistic weapons.
Nuclear weapons, we are very far.
All right. Now, let's analyze the sanctions. I don't know what NATO, you know, what they could be coming up. You know, NATO has been very, very strong in terms of bringing all of these sanctions, you know, against Russia, but Russia seems not to be abating over this. What do you see as a sanction that can weaken Russia or that will make Russia withdraw from this? Do you see any?
Yes. The only sanction that can be used, we should not, at this time, differentiate between Putin and Russia. This war is Putin against Ukraine. It's not
Russia against Ukraine.
It's not Russia at all.
So Putin is fighting a lone fight.
A lone fight. If you ask them to vote in Russia, a lot of them will vote against this war. And as you said much earlier, they have been brothers and sisters.
All along.
So it's Putin that by force you must join us. And that's wrong. That's wrong. So I want to allay the fears that it will degenerate to a third world war. It can't. Because China would never join Russia now. Why? They are dragging Taiwan. North Korea dragging...
so you mean China is already having more than it can?
In fact,
they have different interests.
They are not ready to spare any of their weapons. They are not ready. Because they don't know what the extent will be between China and Taiwan. North Korea and South Korea. Even Iran and Iraq. Everybody is busy doing something. So that is why it can't degenerate to a third world war. So what I see in all of this is the only way, which is the way already has been done. Joe Biden was on CNN, I think on Friday and Saturday, on Sunday or so. He explained a lot of things. That thing that can be done to reduce or to silence Putin forever is the munitions that have been deployed.
You mean the cluster weapons?
Yes. That's
The cluster weapons?
Yes. That's just it. There's no that's it. Because before now, there have been several sanctions.
Yes. Even not having access to technological advancement outside Russia. You know, but again, there are already different ways that the Russian president can get this when it comes to technological advancement in terms of improving on his weaponry.
No time to improve
which at present sanctions are really limiting him from doing
he can't improve on anything. So the easiest sanction that can be placed and that has been placed now is what was done last weekend to ensure that as a throw those bombs to Ukraine will retaliate. That's why I keep on saying that Zelensky said that this deployment was timely.
Okay, but are you not also considering that, you know, for Russia, for Putin to lose in this war, he may be tempted to use the nuclear weapons?
He can't use anything. He can't use anything.
Because he seems, because I remember, you know, your co-discussant was talking about the Satan weapon, or what do you call it?
Satan 2.
Satan 2.
Yes.
He is Satan 1.
Okay, so you still have the floor.
Yeah, so I don't see Putin deploying nuclear weapons and all that, because it's clear to the whole world that small Ukraine that you're fighting, you have beaten it enough. Allow this young man to go to the hospital to recover. They say you fight and runs away, either he has run for his dear life or lives to fight another day. So allow Ukraine to be. And as we know, it's a sovereign nation. Whether they will join or not depends on your posture as a Russian president. There are ways you talk to the child, and the child can obey or disobey. You can just tell the child, do something. When you are done with fetching of water, you have access to a bottle of Coke. And the child will be very happy. But if you don't say the same thing, fetch this water into these drums, when you are through, go and start reading. The guy will look at it and say, I've been reading before now. The energy I would have used to read is what we used to fetch water. So if, as I agree with your point earlier on, that you beg the conscience, you appeal to the conscience of Zelensky, why they as a country must not join NATO. That we have the same blood flowing in our veins. If he has been able to convince, you said confuse, or both. If he could achieve that, there will be no need for this war at any point.
Okay.
But he's using power, the kind of power to intimidate Ukraine over nothing.
Okay.
So the world is watching, and that's why I keep on saying that Joe Biden's action was the right action. Not like if you go to some medical facilities now, somebody is having diabetes, for instance, and there's a major injury that refuses to heal. The orthopedic surgeon will say, we're going to amputate it. You're going to cut off that part of the body so the person will live. But the cutting is not actually the interest of the surgeon, but to make that person to be alive. That was what happened about what Joe Biden did. Okay. Joe Biden is a surgeon, he's an orthopedic surgeon. We know this is not right. Everybody has two legs. We're going to cut off something. We know it's wrong, but for you to be alive, let's say these cluster bombs to you, use it. Put them backwards. Let's see the effect thereafter. I'm sure today's meeting and tomorrow's will help them channel a new course that if these cluster bombs fail as expected,
what could be the next?
What could be the next?
Yes,
so
even as I believe that the foot soldiers of Ukraine could be dwindling as we speak.
Yeah, they should.
Yes, it could be dwindling.
Yes.
And then, you know, we discussed about the Wagner Group. We don't know what implications that will be in this war. But let's look at, although like what the constitutional lawyer said, Adam Zaliu, Russia is a sovereign state, and so there's an extent at which you can go, you know, to make the president answerable to the war crimes against him. But we live in a world where, you know, anything can happen. Where, you know, we've seen it situations where, you know, the challenges we are having here in terms of insecurity and of course bandits and all that, where a citizen of the United States the United States government had to deploy a crew, detach a team, to rescue their national in Nigeria. And we saw how it played out. It was so systematically done. And the national was rescued. Now, is there no way one can do it in a way that, the Russian president will be made to answer to his crimes by just picking him wherever he is?
Yeah,
is that against
it's against international...
Because he's already having issues of war crimes against him. Can't the world leaders, can't NATO do something in that regard instead of exposing lives in Ukraine and, of course, to danger?
The International Criminal Courts, the ICC, there are some countries that are exceptions to the rules. You cannot prosecute them, like the United States of America. You cannot prosecute the U.S. president in ICC. You cannot. Yes, that is the law. Also, Russia. And I think that is the reason why Putin...
Because it's a superpower?
Yes, he's taking advantage.
Okay, maybe it's because of what they have.
Yes.
So that becomes protective.
They know the law. This man...
Otherwise, they could be provoked to do anything.
Yes, they know the law. Just like I said, I don't even see Putin using the tattoo like a once upon a time boast or threatened, better word to use. The thing is that for him, it's a pride. He sees it as pride to invade Ukraine and probably run through Ukraine and take Ukraine and send a signal to the United States of America that, look, what you can do, we can also do it, if not better. That is just what the man wanted to prove. But just now, I don't see him going further. Just like you said, if you take, for instance, the Wagner Group drama, if we are to take the Wagner Group drama serious, then I think that should give Putin more worries than invading or the continued invasion of Ukraine. But
when you say more worries, are you talking about worries of being imploded?
Yes, but to tell you that the Wagner Group saga was a script written by Putin and played by somebody somewhere. So you see all of this. The man wants to cause a distraction. He's an expert of distractions. So, but that distraction didn't work out. So now, the best way to really distract him now, because he's an expert of distractions, distracting other people. So the best way to distract him now is to use the cluster munitions against him. So that by the time he sees the effect of cluster munitions that he once upon a time used against Ukraine, in Ukraine. It's a terrible situation. So he should, I think Putin should at this moment call this war off. He should see reasons. He should look at humanity. He should look at other factors, even trade, because the sanctions melted on Russia just now is not the one that you met on anyhow nation. If you met that kind of sanction like ours, then all our politicians will even leave us here. They'll be somewhere enjoying themselves. So he should take time and still reconsider the fact that, look, Ukrainians are our brothers. They are our sisters. Why can't I just go back? But I know the man would want to prove a point that, look, I will not take this shame alone. Mind you, Russians are not with him in this war. So it's his war. So now that the war is his, he wants to see it maybe to the end. And I think if care is not taken, he may commit suicide.
Oh, well, let's see how it goes, because what you just said now, it was like the advice you were giving about having a rethink. I was imagining the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, in his own attitude, where he would just patiently listen to you, and you'll be thinking that, well, what you're saying is making sense, and it's getting to him, and this man may just make a change of heart. He will patiently listen to you with that beautiful smile, and then what comes out from him is still being adamant. Now, this is the kind of leader that the Russian president is like. Now, let's take your closing remarks on how you think this can be put out within a short time.
Well, lives have been lost, and both parties, the belligerents, they have learned their lesson. I'm sure with the peace talk going on today and tomorrow, there will be lights at the end of the tunnel. And Ukraine joining NATO now will remain as a NATO member, and Russia, which used to be the capital of the 15th Soviet Union, Moscow, we equally know that its own position can be challenged. It is like any other member, even if she parades and masquerade as the godfather.
Thank you very much. That submission is quite interesting, fantastic. But I tell you, Putin may not like to see that Ukraine become a member of NATO. Well, let's look at your remarks in that regard.
His fear will certainly come upon him because the sovereignty he claims as a nation for Russia, it goes same way for Ukraine. Personally, I want to see the cluster bomb detonate. I want to see the effect so that if he has the right conscience as the president of Russia, he should withdraw his troop to say this war should end.
Thank you so much. Your closing remarks, Emmanuel Obafemi.
I think put it to look at the war, that the war is senseless and needless, and there is no need to prosecute it. That is my own.
Thank you, Adams Aliyu. Big thanks, Adams Aliyu, a constitutional lawyer, not Republic of Nigeria. And of course, big thanks to you, Honorable Frank Amego, who is a lecturer at University of Benin of the College of Medical Sciences. And of course, to you also, Emmanuel Obafemi, a seasoned legal practitioner. This one, we'll call it a wrap. We'll always wrap it at the end of the show. We'll do this same time next week. From Philip Omo-Gupon, is goodbye.